I thought I knew who my real family was, but I was wrong. Have you ever been told your entire life that you knew who you were, only to find out that everything you believed about your family was a complete lie? I always thought I knew exactly where I came from. My parents, my siblings, and my extended family, they were my world, my foundation. That is, until one day, a single discovery turned everything upside down. And what I uncovered, it was nothing short of mind-blowing. It all started on what seemed like a normal day. I was going through some old boxes in the attic, clearing out space to make room for some new things. My parents had asked me to help them clean out the house a bit, as they were thinking about selling it soon. To be honest, I wasn't all that excited about it. Digging through boxes of old stuff never really appealed to me, but as I rummaged through old photo albums and childhood mementos, I stumbled upon something I wasn't expecting, a stack of letters tied together with a string. At first glance, they seemed like old correspondence, but what caught my attention was the name on the top of one envelope. It wasn't my name. In fact, it wasn't anyone in our family that I recognized. Curious, I opened the letter carefully, not sure if I should even be looking at it. The moment I did, my heart dropped. The letter inside wasn't from anyone in the family. It was a letter from a lawyer, dated years before I was even born, addressing an unknown relative who, according to the letter, was my biological father. I stared at it, unsure if I had misread it. The envelope and the letter inside were both marked with official-looking stamps. But this couldn't be real, could it? I spent the next few minutes reading through the letter again and again. It seemed to confirm something I had never once considered. My parents were hiding something from me. But what? Why would they keep something like this from me? And why hadn't I heard of this before? I started to feel a growing sense of unease as I glanced over at the family photos on the wall. Everything I thought I knew was being questioned in an instant. I folded the letter back into the envelope, trying to shake off the shock. But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning of something much bigger than I could have imagined. I spent the next few hours in a haze, the letter burning a hole in my mind. I knew I had to confront my parents, but I wasn't sure how to approach it. Part of me wanted to ignore it, pretend I never saw it, and move on. But another part of me couldn't let go. What if there was more to this? What if I had a whole side of my family I didn't know about? As the evening approached, I decided to confront my parents, but I wasn't ready to come out with everything just yet. I needed answers, but I wasn't prepared for the emotional fallout that might come with it. So I waited until we were sitting down for dinner, hoping the conversation could stay casual. "Hey, Mom, Dad, I found something today," I started, my voice shaky, my hands fidgeting with my napkin. They both looked at me, their expressions unreadable. "What did you find, honey?" My mom's voice was warm and inviting, but I could tell there was a hint of apprehension there. She must have sensed something was off. "It's a letter from a lawyer. It mentions something about another family member, and it seems to suggest that I have a biological father I never knew about." I felt the words slip out of my mouth before I could stop them. The room fell silent. My dad shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes avoiding mine. My mom looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read, a mix of worry and something else, something guarded. "Where did you find this letter?" my dad asked, his tone low, almost as if he was trying to stay calm, but I could hear the tension in his voice. "In the attic, just some old papers, but this is different," I explained, my heart pounding in my chest. "Why haven't you told me about this? Why keep it a secret all these years?" Mom cleared her throat, glancing nervously at my dad before speaking. "We didn't want you to be hurt. We thought it was best if you didn't know." I couldn't believe it. "Hurt? How could this possibly hurt me more than finding out you've been hiding this from me for my entire life?" There was another long silence before my dad spoke up, his voice firm but tired. "This isn't something we wanted to burden you with. There's more to this story, and we didn't know how to tell you." I felt the weight of their words hit me like a brick. The truth was somewhere in the air, but they weren't ready to let me have it yet. My emotions were all over the place. Shock, anger, confusion, and even a bit of fear were swirling inside me. "I need to know the truth," I said, barely above a whisper. The tension was thick as my parents exchanged a look. It was then that I realized something wasn't just hidden in those letters. There was something deeper going on, and if I didn't push for answers now, I might never get them. Mom sighed, her hand trembling slightly as she set down her fork. "It's not easy to talk about," she began. But you deserve to know. I leaned in, my pulse racing. I don't understand. What's going on? Who is my biological father? My dad's face went pale, and I could tell he was struggling to find the right words. It's complicated, son, he said quietly. We've kept it from you all these years because we thought it was for the best. Best? For who? I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. I've been kept in the dark about my own family, and you're telling me you thought it was best? My mom looked at my dad, then back at me. There's something you don't know about your real father, and it's not something we could just explain easily. I could feel the knot in my stomach tightening. I had to know more, but their reluctance was only making things worse. Just tell me, please, I pressed, my voice shaking. Who is he? Why are you hiding this from me? Dad took a deep breath, his eyes meeting mine. We didn't want you to feel abandoned. Abandoned? What are you talking about? I asked, feeling the confusion bubble over. Mom spoke up, her voice soft but firm. Your biological father wasn't part of your life because he didn't want to be. He made that choice, and we had to protect you from that. But he didn't even want to meet me? I asked, my voice cracking. No, it's not that simple, Dad said. There was more to it. More than we ever wanted you to know. I stared at them, trying to process everything. The mystery only deepened. It was clear now that there was more to this story than they were willing to say, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they were still hiding something huge from me. The silence in the room was unbearable. I sat there, staring at my parents, trying to piece together the fragments of the truth that they were still holding back. I didn't know what to think anymore. Finally, Mom broke the silence. It's just complicated. We've always wanted what was best for you, but we never wanted to hurt you with the truth. Make sure to like the video and subscribe so you never miss more shocking and real stories like this one. Hurting me with the truth, I repeated, my voice growing louder. You've already hurt me by lying to me all these years. Dad shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. We never meant to deceive you, but we had our reasons, and those reasons made sense at the time. It wasn't just about you. There were other factors at play. Other factors? What could possibly be more important than telling me the truth about my own family? Other factors? What kind of factors are we talking about here? I asked, now getting frustrated. This doesn't make any sense. Mom's face softened, and for the first time, I could see the weight of the years of secrecy in her eyes. It was about protecting you from the pain of knowing that your father didn't want anything to do with you. He made choices that affected your life, and we thought that if you didn't know, it would be easier for you. A knot formed in my throat. But I still don't understand. Who is he, and why didn't he want me? Mom hesitated. He was troubled. He had his own demons. It wasn't about you. He just couldn't handle being a father. He chose to stay away. I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. So, you let me grow up thinking I was part of this family, but you kept me from knowing the truth. Why? Dad's voice dropped to a whisper. We didn't want you to feel abandoned. We didn't want you to think you were unwanted. My heart shattered. They had kept me in the dark all these years, and for what? To protect me from a father who didn't even want to be part of my life? I had to know more. Where is he now? Can I meet him? Mom and Dad exchanged a glance, and I could see the hesitation in their eyes. I don't think that's possible, son, Dad said quietly. He's gone. He's been gone for a long time. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. He's gone? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I tried to process what they were saying, but it felt like I was in a dream. Yes, Dad confirmed. He died a few years ago. We didn't want to tell you then because, well, we thought it would be too much for you. I felt a lump form in my throat. I had never even known his name, and now I would never have the chance to meet him. I didn't know whether to be angry or just numb. But why? Why keep this from me? Why didn't you just tell me the truth? I couldn't stop the questions from pouring out. Mom's face was filled with sorrow. We thought you were better off not knowing. We didn't want to add any more confusion to your life. We tried to protect you from the pain, but maybe we were wrong. A cold wave of realization washed over me. I had spent my whole life thinking I was missing something, but I never knew what. And now, the truth was just too much to handle. How long have you known? I asked them, my voice shaking. How long have you been keeping this from me? Dad looked down, avoiding my gaze. Since the beginning, son. Since you were born. We made a choice, and we stuck with it. I felt like I had been living in a lie for so long. Everything about my childhood, my family, it was all built on a foundation of secrets. How could you keep something like that from me? I demanded. For my whole life? There was a long pause before Mom finally spoke. We thought we were doing what was best. We thought that if you didn't know, you could live a normal life. I took a deep breath, trying to hold back the tears. The more they explained, the more confused I felt. Was this really how it was supposed to be? Do you regret it? I asked quietly. Mom and Dad both looked at each other. They didn't speak at first, but I could see the guilt in their eyes. Finally, Dad nodded. Yes, we regret it, but we didn't know what else to do. I could feel the anger bubbling inside me, but at the same time, I was overwhelmed with confusion. How do you process something like this? How do you come to terms with the fact that the people you trusted most kept such a massive secret from you? The silence stretched on for what felt like hours. I stared at my parents, trying to understand why they thought they were protecting me. The whole idea seemed so messed up, yet I couldn't fully blame them. They had their reasons, even if they were hard to accept. Why didn't you ever tell me about him? I asked, my voice breaking through the silence. Why didn't you let me know that I had a father out there? Dad shifted uncomfortably in his chair, clearly uneasy with the question. We thought it would be easier for you this way, just having the family you knew. We didn't want to confuse you or make you feel like you didn't belong. I shook my head, the frustration building again. But what about the truth? What about me having a choice in all this? You took that away from me. I know, Dad said softly, his voice low with regret. And I'm sorry, son. I really am. But at the time, it felt like the right decision. We never meant to hurt you. I wanted to scream, to throw everything at them. I wanted to understand why they thought they could make that decision for me. I had a right to know who I was, to know my own history. Yet, as much as I wanted to lash out, a part of me understood. They truly thought they were doing what was best for me. But now you know, Mom whispered, almost as if trying to reassure herself. Now you know the truth, and we're here, no matter how hard it is. Yeah, I replied, my voice steadying. But what happens now? What do we do with all of this? Mom reached across the table, her hand trembling as she placed it over mine. We face it, together, and we move forward. But moving forward didn't seem so simple. Not when I had just found out that my entire life had been based on a lie. I looked down at our hands on the table, trying to process what had just happened. My mind was spinning, but I felt a strange calm starting to wash over me. Maybe it was the fact that they were finally being honest, or maybe I was just too exhausted to fight anymore. Either way, the reality of what I had learned began to settle in. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. I need to meet him, I said quietly. The words just slipped out, but they felt so right. I need to meet my real father. Mom's face faltered, her eyes welling up again. I knew you'd say that, but please understand, he's not the person you think he is. I frowned, unsure of what she meant. What do you mean by that? Dad spoke up, his voice soft but firm. It's complicated. We don't know where he is now, and even if we did, we're not sure what you'd find. He's not someone we ever wanted in your life. The uncertainty hung in the air, and I could feel a knot forming in my stomach. I didn't know whether to be angry or scared, but one thing was clear. I needed answers, even if they were uncomfortable. I'll figure it out myself, I said, standing up. I'll find him. Mom looked at me, pleading, but I couldn't back down now. This was something I had to do. As I left the table, the weight of the conversation hung over me like a storm cloud. My parents had revealed more than I ever thought possible, but it wasn't enough. I had to know the truth, no matter what it cost me. That night, I sat in my room, the letter in my hand. It was my only lead. The lawyer's name was printed clearly on the letterhead, along with an address, albeit one that was decades old. I decided to start there. If I could track down this lawyer or anyone connected to the letter, maybe I'd find the missing pieces of my story. The next morning, I didn't tell my parents where I was going. I needed to do this alone. I drove for hours, my mind racing with possibilities. What kind of man was my biological father? Why had he left? What would I find if I went digging into his past? When I finally arrived at the address, I wasn't sure what to expect. It was an old building, the kind that looked like it hadn't been updated in decades. The lawyer's name was still on the plaque by the door, but something about it felt eerie, like time had stood still here. I stepped inside and was greeted by a receptionist, who looked like she had been working there since the office opened. "I'm looking for information about a case from years ago," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's personal." She hesitated, her sharp eyes studying me. "What's the name on the file?" I handed her the letter, and her expression softened. "Wait here," she said, before disappearing into the back room. Minutes felt like hours as I sat in the waiting area, the walls lined with faded certificates and yellowing legal documents. Finally, the receptionist returned, holding a file. "This is what we have, but I should warn you, it might not be what you're expecting." I opened the file with trembling hands. Inside were more letters, along with court documents and medical records. The truth hit me like a freight train. My biological father hadn't abandoned me by choice. He had been battling severe mental health issues for most of his life, and had been institutionalized shortly after I was born. The letters revealed that he had tried to reach out, but my parents had intercepted every attempt. They truly believed they were protecting me, shielding me from the chaos of his life. But the part that shook me the most was a note written in shaky handwriting, a letter addressed to me. "I don't know if you'll ever see this," it read, "but if you do, know that I loved you more than anything. I stayed away because I didn't want my struggles to hurt you. I hope your life is full of happiness, even if I can't be a part of it." Tears streamed down my face as I read his words. All my anger, my resentment. It melted away in an instant. He hadn't abandoned me. He had sacrificed his own happiness to give me a chance at a better life. When I returned home, my parents were waiting for me, their faces filled with worry. I set the file on the table and sat down, the weight of the truth pressing down on all of us. "I know everything now," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "And I understand why you did what you did. But I wish you'd trusted me with the truth." My mom's eyes filled with tears, and my dad looked down, ashamed. "We thought we were protecting you," he said, "but we realize now that we were wrong." For the first time, I felt a sense of closure. The missing pieces of my life were finally falling into place. I didn't know what the future would hold, but I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't defined by the secrets of my past. I was stronger than that. As I hugged my parents, I realized that forgiveness wasn't just for them, it was for me too. And in that moment, I finally felt free. Life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. For years, I thought I knew who I was, only to find out that my identity was wrapped in layers of secrets and sacrifices. But in uncovering the truth, I learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who choose to love and protect you, even when they make mistakes. If you've ever found yourself questioning where you come from, don't be afraid to seek the answers. The truth might be painful, but it's the only way to truly move forward. And remember, no matter what you discover, your story is yours to write. Have you ever uncovered a family secret that changed your life? Share your story in the comments below, and let's start a conversation about the truths that shape us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more incredible stories like this one.